right, so I'll a lot of this is like free balling, but I'm talking about myself for the most part. So yeah. So like to break this down for the most part, right? I'm a Taurus sun. I'm a Taurus sun and moon and a Cap rising, and then I have my Taurus sun in the 20th degree. Then I have my Taurus moon in the 6th degree, and then I have my Capricorn rising in the 26th degree and shit like that. Okay, so like, what does that mean? Based upon the numerology aspect from my Taurus sun being 20 degrees and stuff like that, some people call that like a Taurus degree, but the same thing would be like second dimensional or, you know what I'm saying? Like second dimensional or like representing the second house, but considering it has that zero there and stuff like that, it's just me having the ability to be relatable to something outside of myself and having that zero, that space to actually like blow it up and make it more amplified and things of that nature for the most part. And then I have that Taurus moon in the 6th degree, and then some people call that the Virgo degree or sixth dimensional or, you know, six house type of energy and stuff like that when it comes to my emotions and feelings. And then I have a Cap rising, which is 26th degree, and it being 26th degree numerology wise, that's going to equal to 8. That 2 plus 6, which is 8, and then some people call that Scorpio degree or the 8th house type of energy and 8th dimensional and stuff like that. Now, for the most part, what does all that mean? So we already know that's 2, 6, and 8. So from that shit being 2, 6, and 8, that's 2 plus 6, which equal 8, and then 8 plus another 8, because I'm breaking this shit down numerology wise and stuff like that. That 8 plus 8 is going to equal to 16, and then numerology wise is going to be that 1 plus 6, which is going to be 7. So for the most part, just based on my big three alone and stuff like that, I give off that 2, 6, 8 or like whatever, like way you want to arrange that shit, 6, 2, 8 or like 8, 2, 6. You know what I'm saying? Like however you want to arrange it, it's just gonna equate based on numerology and geometry and shit like that. It is gonna equal to 16, which is just gonna equal to 7 and stuff like that. So some people call that the Libra degree, and then some people call that like 7th dimensional and shit like that, or like the 7th house type of energy and stuff like that. So for the most part, that's like the way like I'm already set up, just based upon like my whole astrological blueprint and things of that nature. I'm gonna come off 7th dimensional for the most part. And then on top of that, I'm also a life path 11, and then the life path before 11 is 9, and the one after 11 is 22 and stuff like that. So I will take my androgynous way based upon masculine and feminine, being like well-rounded of a whole broad overall outlook based upon the birth rim and stuff like that. Or another way you could look at it is like springtime and stuff like that. So it's kind of like me being able to look at it from an angle, like a higher angle, based upon like a godly, like creation type of layer and stuff like that. Because we're the like creators, not the creations and stuff like that. And we're just observing what we already created and stuff like that. So just naturally from me being able to be 7th, 8th, 9th dimensional, just naturally and stuff like that. That's why I come off the way I come off and stuff like that. Like I'm able to break shit down and see it from like an overall layer based upon someone rising and stuff like that. Despite the fact it's a triple earth sign and stuff like that. And it's dealing more with reality and receiving something based upon what I'm externalizing physically and stuff like that. And then on top of that, with the life path 11, the 11 being 1 plus a 1. So making my individuality dualistic, or, some people call that like 11th house type of energy or Aquarius type of energy, if you was an astrologer, to make it more simplified and stuff like that. And then I just broke down to 9 because 9 is before the 11, and after that it's 22. So the first two being me being able to take my individuality and making it dualistic, which is the first two, and then 2 plus another 2, me being able to do that times 2. So me being able to take my individuality and understand the thoughts, ideas of my surroundings based upon me being dualistic and already understanding my familiarity of my environment and my surroundings and stuff like that. So me being able to give life to a thought idea in a better outlook of how everyone else look at something before it becomes condensed into the physicality and things of that nature. So me being a life path 11, I always take on those roles of like both sides based upon that purgatory of like, that 9 side and then that 22 side. And then I'm more focused on making my individuality dualistic and stuff like that. I just can't get into that mind space of like trying to be a manipulator and stuff like that, because I know how to play a role or a persona of something. And then in my mind, I could be going through something like, you know what I'm saying? I could go through something traumatic and shit like that, but like y'all wouldn't know that because based upon I'm able to play this role and persona so well of like whatever the fuck I'm doing. And I'm able to just detach from my feelings and emotions and just talk about what I need to talk about at the moment based upon what I'm doing with in life and shit like that. But like, that's a whole other nuance and shit. And then on top of that, for me being a Taurus sun and moon and stuff like that, that's like a springtime sign and stuff like that. So that's all about springing off or like germinating a seed and things of that nature. The same way during the springtime when a bee go pollinate a flower and stuff like that, I always have that energy of thinking of like, oh, how can I birth something into existence and stuff like that, and then be fixated on my own way of thinking, communicating, and being stable in that based upon high values and what I want to offer to the world and planting good seeds and things of that nature. And like just being like a high value, high like self-esteem standard type person for the most part. So despite me being triple earth and shit like that, and then especially on top of that, for me having that Cap rising and then it being in that 26th degree, which equal to 8, so that 8th housey or like Scorpio degree and stuff like that, automatically my personality is gonna come off really like Scorpio like. So like I'm always gonna come off in this energy of like trying to be a personally deep person just based upon my personal expression, like my personal affairs and like what I'm personally into and shit like that, all the way down to my insecurity. So that shit like will go deep, like if I was like real insecure about something based upon something external, me trying to receive something from it, and then I soak inside that emotion and feeling, and I start self-reflecting and shit like that, it's gonna hit me more personally or way more deep. Especially if I catch another motherfucker trying to do that to me based upon like manipulation. I feel like they got a whole alternative motive and stuff like that. But I'm not that like self-victimizing ass type person for the most part. But like you know what I'm saying? I'm just breaking down like, examples and like scenarios of like what that would even play out like in the first place. So yeah, for the most part, yeah, 2 fixed signs and 1 cardinal sign. So it being 2 fixed signs, aka you know my Taurus on the moon, it would just be like me being fixated of my own way of thinking, communicating, and being stable, like I was saying earlier, and me being able to materialize and manifest just based off of that. And then on top of that, me having that cardinal sign, aka my Cap rising. So I like initiating credit and being in charge of the energy when it comes to Capricorn shit and stuff like that. And I don't need to break that down. It's just like you know type shit. So despite the fact like I'm a very like grounded, earthy, genuine, easy to talk to type of person, and things of that nature, right? And just based upon the fact I'm so like reality based and shit like that, like that's why I'll like look at everything from like a spiritual, like a whole like spiritual overall broad outlook first of like the seed based upon like the language or like the entertainment or the business structure or the goddamn education or the fucking politics and shit like that. Like I don't get lost into the like translation of words and shit like that. I'll be paying attention to like the intent and like the actions for the most part. Like I like being that observer type of space the same way how someone would be like based upon like meditation and shit like that. Right? And then that going to why my name is even UV in the first place, because this is something I came up when I was like 15 and shit like that. So me creating that whole character or persona of me like using these things as a bitch type shit. And then it's the same thing that all y'all doing for the most part, because it's the same way how my bio, how it says, oh, I'm a spirit in the body. Yeah, y'all doing the same thing. Y'all just having a human experience right now, but you're utilizing being in this realm right now, being in like God's mind and body and stuff like that, aka being on earth or being on a celestial body just in the physical and taking on this, multi, like, what I'm saying, you being like multidimensional, you trying to have a broader outlook so you can add like the atmosphere and like do things naturally and like, what I'm saying, like it's a whole like deep thing for the most part. But like, yeah, like that used vessel shit, yeah, you in like your spirit is your space, so like you in a spaceship and shit like that. So you're guiding everything based upon your experiences and the direction you want to go in life and your whole outlook in things of that nature. And I always feel like I'm in this space where I look at it from a broad point of view and just like I'm not getting too lost on what's going on physically or based upon overthinking or overwhelm myself based upon thoughts, ideas, feelings, emotions. I'm more focused on the overall aspect or what some people call God and shit like that and how to maintain it. And then on top of that, my son, based upon my fixed star placements and stuff like that, I'm not gonna get into. There's a whole other thing, but based upon where my fixed stars are positioned and stuff like that, my son in Taurus is in the Aries constellation and is also in the Eridanus constellation, which represents like the ram or the river and shit like that for both. From their interpretation, like England man cosplayer interpretation based upon the constellation and shit like that. And then my moon is in Cepheus and Cassiopeia, which represents the king and the queen energy and shit like that. So that's why naturally, like when it comes to who I am and how I self-reflect and how I self-introspect and how I feel inside, like internal realm and shit like that, based upon my emotions and feelings, that's why I can come off like a sovereign type of person. Not to say I'm trying to rule or reign over anybody and shit like that, or I even care about like the whole king queen type of concept and stuff like that. I just be saying my sentiment and be looking for like-minded individuals. But that's why someone could look at me like it's the epitome of like when people be like natural born leaders and shit like that. It's like, yeah, it's kind of like naturally like I already think in that queen like kingly type of energy, but not in an ego type of way. I do it in like a recreational type of way. So it's like I'm ego less. Like I do that I don't do my ego for the sake of self-serving like that, or I don't try not to. For the most part, like I don't give a fuck about like the physical external shit unless it's based upon me using something outside of myself in the physical world as like my bitch, so I can control it, so I can like not no controlling like manipulative type of way and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just based upon like manifesting and materializing and shit like that. And then like yeah, like I look at it more like that. Like oh, I'm already in that. If this was like tarot card readers and shit like that, I already feel like I'm in that high priestess type of energy and shit like that. I already feel like I'm in that high priest type of seat because I already try to feel like I already feel like, oh, I'm moving naturally with the atmosphere and the environment and shit like that. I'm naturally moving with the clouds and shit like that. I'm naturally moving with the blue sky and shit like that. I'm naturally moving with the sun and moon and the transitions based upon the life, birth, death, deterioration concept and stuff like that. I understand that life is all about change and shit like that. Just naturally. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, like I'm aware of like the natural cycle. Even if I'm feeling stagnant and stuck myself, I can recognize that change or that evolution within others and shit like that. Like yeah. And then my rising is also in the Capricorn constellation. I meant to bring it up. I meant to bring it up. So it's like yeah, me being that Taurus, Sun, and Moon and shit like that, based upon like different sun pockets, that 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. Just think about how you feel like 8 a.m. 10 a.m. in the morning. And then my rising, being a Capricorn and shit like that, that'll be goddamn 12 a.m. to 2 a.m. and shit like that. So just think about how you feel like during like, midnight to like 2 a.m. and shit like that. So it's like, yeah. So me having that springtime type of energy, and me being genuine, and me being grounded, and me looking at things from an overall perspective, right? And then me able to understand the manifestation based upon the thought idea of feelings and emotion as with ease, and then trying to materialize that in the material realm and shit like that for some type of high value concept, for me understanding, me like looking at shit from like a high self-esteem standpoint for the most part. But like, yeah, it just go back into like my moon being in the Cepheus, Cassiopeia energy and shit like that. But like, you can do your own research about that. But like, yeah, I already feel like I'm in that king, queen concept for the most part, this naturally and shit like that. So I can make that more simple. So my divine masculine feminine and shit like that, all the way down to like, even though like, I'm into what I'm into, my shit it come off the way it come off regardless. Like I don't give a fuck what like, no one says about like how I look or shit like that. But like, that's why I naturally come off androgynous all the way down to my look and shit like that. But like, I already think from a well-rounded, androgynous birth realm type of way. Like, before that shit, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, highly spirited, like, the breath of life. Like, before it becomes sentient, before it becomes, like an actual thing, I'm already in that realm of thinking, like celestial, or, like, in the heavens, or, like, in the atmosphere. Like, trying to be like the sky and shit like that. Like, the clouds you see outside and shit like that when you go out in nature and shit like that. Like, yeah, to make it simple. Some people call that shit, like, being in touch with Mother Nature and shit like that. But, like, yeah. That's really all that shit in a nutshell. But, like, yeah. So it's like, yeah, I understand my spirit, aka my space, and I understand my mind. I try to look at this shit from a whole well-rounded perspective based upon 7th, 8th, 9th dimensional concepts. So that's why I always come off mad spiritual, or I come off mad like I be thinking of like everything. Like I think in a more overall concept. I don't try to get too lost in my mind, because I start thinking in my mind like, okay, is there a bias in this? You know what I'm saying? And then what's my little piece within that whole overall piece and shit like that? So am I thinking from my ego right now? And then even when I talk to other people and shit like that, I start breaking that shit down so I can point them in an overall better direction of how to look at something. So they don't sit there and be like thinking based upon an ego or like a bias, or it's like that's a concept you end up in your mind, or you get lost into the external realm and the things outside of yourself and shit like that. So you need to learn how to have that spiritual discernment and like separate from certain shit and shit like that. So you can be rejuvenated in that gas, that fuel, that you know what I'm saying, like that spirit and shit like that. But yeah, bro. That's very much in a nutshell. So that's why, like, whenever y'all be trying to do that whole used vessel shit, for the most part, I recognize when y'all be trying to do that to me and shit like that, just based on manipulation and shit like that. That's why I don't fuck with liars like that. That's a whole like personal tidbit about myself, but it's like, yeah, like I already be in that natural energy that's just based upon my name and shit like that. And I came up with that shit when I was like 15 and shit like that, because yeah, I always feel like that. And then I always see that quality within others and shit like that to remind you what you already doing naturally yourself and shit like that. That's why my name is used vessel and shit like that. I'm talking about myself, but I'm also talking about everyone who's sentient right now and in a human body having a human experience and shit like that, and you being the observer, not being the observant. So people watching you and your influence and your energy and shit like that, not you watching them type shit. Like, yeah, like, you're the creator, not a creation. Like, it's really that simple. Like, that's me reminding y'all. That's why I chose the whole, in the name of UV and use vessel and shit like that. And who the fuck you think you is? Because you think you can control motherfucker? No, I don't even think like that. I can get like that, but, you know.
Whoa. A what? Yeah, a Dexter. Oh, man, goddamn. Oh, yeah.
Okay, so, boom. Extending that shit. Because I had, like, the other two parts, but I'm at nuance to like my other shit when it comes to like my big three and stuff like that. So it being towards Sun and Moon and then Cap Rising and stuff like that, right? And then on top of that, so boom, I'm breaking down like my houses for the big three and my house of lords and the elemental properties between each based upon like each one going to the other one and stuff like that based upon like the house of lords and stuff like that, and why that adds to like why I act the way I act for the most part. All right, so boom, so like my moon is in Taurus and my moon is in the 3rd house. My 3rd house is in Aries, right? The ruler for Aries is Mars. My Mars is in the 5th house. So my 3rd house lord is in the 5th house. Okay, so like, let me break all that shit down for the most part, right? So me having my moon in my 3rd, when it comes to like my emotions and feelings and self-reflecting in like my internal mirror and stuff like that, and my protector of my emotions and feelings and stuff like that, and where I feel comfortable and at home and stuff like that, is in the 3rd house. And my 3rd house basically like talks about like my familiarity when it comes to like my environment and my surroundings and stuff like that. So it's an air house. So it being an air house, it make it so I'm like very like socially aware and stuff like that. Like when it comes to like communication, intelligence, and analyzing, and like like observation and like you know what I'm saying, like communicating and shit like that, and like using like a lot of logical and reasoning when it comes to like what I'm familiar with from my surroundings and stuff like that, and like close proximity and shit like that. That's why I can intellectualize my emotions and things of that nature. And like it just put me in that it make it so like I'm very like emotionally intelligent for the most part. So it's kind of like I'm able to separate from like it's like my thoughts are like my emotions and feelings in a way. like yeah, like my emotions and feelings, it's like it feel more like a thought form or it's like me not being in my feelings, but it's like I observe the feeling itself. Now I can put that in a little container or like a bubble so I can understand it and like see it for what it is clearly for the most part. But sometimes it's good to be in my emotions and feelings and not come off all dry and shit like that, and it made me be not connective and it come off like, oh, all work no play type of energy. I'm all business, but I can't sit there and have like a actual connection with the person. I'm just all like, man, where my bag at? Where my bag? I need that bag, bitch. Like yeah. And then on top of that, I have what's it called? I have Aries in my third house. So Aries being in my third house and stuff like that, right? I like to initially create new ways to see and feel when it comes to my personal expression and seeing through reality based upon foresight or like some type of creativity or some type of like expression and shit like that. And I like being in charge and controlling like basically like being in my light state, being aka no shit performance stuff like that. So it's kind of like it being in Mars and shit like that. It makes it so when it comes to like that third house shit, I'll be so passionate and I'll be so motivated and I try to be more like inspiring and shit like that. And I'll be in that type of energy, and that being in the third house and then my moon is there. That's why when it comes to my emotions and feelings or like how I react to respond to shit and shit like that, it's like, for me, it's like I don't want to use impulse, but that'd be like a good word to use for the most part. Like, it's either gonna come off impulsive or it's just gonna come off like really like assertive and shit like that. Like, I see through the bullshit. I see through the physicality, the material, the shit that I see in front of me when it comes to like external type of shit. I see through like the words you saying. I see through the emotion and feeling you trying to make me feel and shit like that. I'm just looking at the shit as is for the most part. So like that fiery type of energy and stuff like that. So it's like that strong nigga. I don't give a fuck, nigga. I'm trying to express this shit. You know what I'm saying? You gonna feel what the fuck I'm saying. You gonna feel this knowledge and wisdom. You gonna feel my broad outlook of how I look at that shit. And then I don't need no physical representation to even talk about this shit for the most part. You gonna feel what I'm saying, bitch ass nigga. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, like it don't gotta be like that, but it's just real like it's like my personality be strong as shit type shit when it comes to my emotions and feelings, right? So it's kind of like that adds onto like why even on Triple Earth, and it's all about grounded or like stability or like growth and like nourishment and planting a good seed and like, you know what I'm saying, like structuring and like practicality and making sense out of shit. That's why I'm not that materialistic, because based upon what I'm talking about right now, for the most part, it's kind of like I'll see the physicality of the thing and make sense out of it and like make it realistic, but I still have that vision though. Yeah, that's the word. Like, it's like I have that vision of like the overall outlook of how I see it. And I do it from the inside out type shit. So like my internal realm, aka like my imagination, shit like that, and my vision, this is how I see and feel about this thing, and I'm gonna externalize this thing. And I know it's not in a physical realm or it's not materialized, but I'm gonna try to make that shit real. So I do that filter through my moon. So that's my internal realm, my emotions and feelings and stuff like that. And then that's how I do my emotions and feelings and shit like that. So like I could come off like that to make it so you don't really like see how I actually feel inside about something. But also at the same time, that's why I come off so passionate. That's why I come off so like personality driven and shit like that. That's why I come off more genuine. But it's like I can tit for tat. Like I can do both type shit. Like that's where the emotional intelligence come in. But at the same time, oh, you know, this nigga be hard to pay, or like this nigga can be serious, or like this nigga like shit structure a certain way and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Like this nigga like to build on shit for real, but he can see the vision or the right brain aspect and the left brain aspect at the same time. It's like a yeah. And then on top of that, like I just said, my third house lord is in the fifth house. So that third house lord being in the fifth house and shit like that, right? The fifth house deals with expression or like creativity or like entertainment, aka what you like to entertain or other people's sense of entertainment or just the entertainment industry in itself. Just like entertainment in general for the most part. And it'll sit there and turn into like me having fun and enjoying myself and shit like that, or just like me being my inner child. That's like the more accurate way to put it for the most part. So like things that make me feel I'm like in my inner child and like I can be creative or I can be self-expressive and stuff like that, or like what I pay attention to, what I like to entertain and shit like that. So it's like Leo type. It's like Leo type of energy. Like low key, it's not the same thing. Fifth house and Leo ain't the same thing. But you know, it's like there's a million relationship there. That's a whole fucking different topic. I ain't trying to go off topic. So I got that Aries there, and then it's in the third house. So my third house lord is in the fifth house, and that's also Mars. So that's where like, you know, the Aries shit and then the passionate shit and like me trying to be in charge of it, me being assertive and shit like that, me being real personality driven and shit like that, me trying to be like first, me trying to drive through everything when it comes to that. You know what I'm saying? Like sun being exalted and stuff like that. So I'll exalt like a certain action or like a certain conscious awareness of how I feel about the thing, or like a certain want or like a certain individuality and shit like that. And like, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm showing you my internal realm and like what I like to pay attention to and shit like that. So yeah, and then right, the same thing, I gotta apply that shit for my son and shit, right? So when I applied it to my son is in the fourth house and my fourth house lord is in the fifth house. So it's the same thing I just said. Also, I have Taurus in my fourth house, right? So I'm already a Taurus sun, so it's kind of like that double whammy. And I already broke down like the Taurus shit earlier, right? And then the fourth house, that's like, you know what I'm saying, like home or like where you feel at home, at comfortability, where you feel comfortable at and stuff like that. like private matters and shit like that, domestic issues, family, or things you consider like family, where you feel emotionally comfortable and stuff like that, for the most part. So it's like all the way down to like when I talk about astrology shit for the most part, right? My fucking earring caught up. Okay, but yeah, all the way down when I talk about astrology and shit like that, right? Me having that Taurus sun combined with that and being my fourth, that's why when I talk about it in a way, it's never like I can utilize it for money, right? I can utilize it based upon value. I can utilize it to be stable in it. I can utilize it as like a status or career or like a job or like something I can structure and practicalize, make sense out of and shit like that, and make it realistic and like grounded in reality in some way, shape, or form and shit like that. Like I just said, like making a job and stuff like that, and make like utilize it for money. But the nuance behind it is fourth house shit. It's like some nurturing, caring type of energy. That's why when like y'all see me talk about astrology or spirituality, mysticism and stuff like that, it never comes off like I'm trying to make a business out of it or like I'm trying to utilize my talking points for money so you can buy into what I'm saying. It's like I'm explaining like some type of nurturing, caring type of thing. Like you should really value and care about this. The only thing that comes off is like, yeah, it just comes off like, oh yeah, you should really nurture and care about this thing because I nurture and care and value this thing and it's helps with my self-esteem and shit like that. Or, you know what I'm saying? Like, this can help you like internally and like I always give off like that homey type of vibe and stuff like that. Like, yeah, this is a better way to care about yourself because of this, that, and the third. Or like, you know what I'm saying? Like an overall outlook and shit like that. I'm not really on that. I'm trying to utilize you based upon like your money or like your status and like what you got. I'm really trying to help you internally and shit like that. Like I always give off that type of vibe because it's a water house and shit. So it's like, it's based upon the emotion and feeling and soaking in it. So you feel what I'm saying for the most part. It's like an internal or like a mind thing for the most part. Like, yeah. Or like a spirit, like, you know what I'm saying? Like this helps your mind and spirit more. And then it can act out through your body and shit like that. Like, yeah. So it's like a natural thing. And I always try to explain that. So I always make you feel emotionally comfortable. Like, this is emotional. Like, I give you that sense, like, it is okay to talk about this thing. You know what I'm saying? Like I make you feel like it's comfortable to take away. Like, I take away the spookism. I take away, like, the bribery. I take away the scam. That's what it is. I take away, like, the scam aspect. I'm like, no, there's emotional fulfillment in this. You have to look at it like this, though. Because, blah, 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 blah. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. So for the most part, yeah. That's my my fourth house lower in the fifth house because my sun is in the fourth house, and then I also have my sun there, and I also have Mercury there. So for me having Mercury there, right, I'll act on these things based upon like the intelligence, the thinking, the communication, the articulation, the analyzation, the like intelligence of it and shit like that. So that's what make it. So I'm doing what I'm doing right now. I'll act towards talking about it a lot, or I try to understand like the mind behind why people value that thing to make them feel emotionally comfortable, and then I'll speak on it. You know what I'm saying? Like you know what I'm saying? Like I'll act towards it more, so other people can see the same thing I'm seeing, and then my Capricorn rising, which is just cardinal Earth. So that's initiating, created, and being in charge of when it comes to thinking, communicating, when it comes to like structure and foundation in your life and like one's reality and shit like that. And even though I'll experience boundary restriction and limits and stuff like that, it'll help make the foundation better despite the resistance I might get on initial like, you know what I'm saying, like initial thing when I try to do that based upon like mental blockages and shit like that or like physical shit that's going on. But at the end of the day, man, I'm gonna get this bad motherfucker, man. I'm gonna be all about my business and shit like that. I'm gonna make this entrepreneurship business work, god damn it. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like that type of energy. It's like boss type of energy. So it's like I like look at shit in a way to where it's all like, oh, okay, I'm gonna figure out how to make this like a branding and shit like that. I'm gonna get coworkers. Oh, you got this ability to use this thing. Okay, I'm gonna use that and I'm gonna handle the business side and shit like that. So for me, the way I think about it, I use my personality like that. Like my whole personality, my personal issues, insecurities, and affairs. That's how I look at shit. So like I don't like try to use it that way. But if I were to, I can like put myself in a pocket to where I'm intelligent enough to where I see a talent and gift that someone in my family got or my friends got, and I try to, back, like I'll fund it, like I'll back and support it, but I'll be all like, hey, you know what I'm saying? Like, let me handle the business side. You can just go be creative. I'll be a little manager and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? Just do this, that, and the third. And if I was like that, I'd be like, man, you know what I'm saying? I'm gonna swindle this thing. I'll put my name here and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm saying? I get a certain percentage of everything they do, even though they got a talent and gift. Shit, my talent and gift is turn that shit into a business and me getting that bag. So I probably get more on the back end that they don't realize. Like, I ain't gonna utilize it like that. But like, you know what I'm saying? It's that Capricorn type of energy. They always gonna be in some CEO type of mentality and shit like that. Like, yeah. So yeah, my first house lower is also my fifth house, right? And then in my first house, I have Uranus and I have Neptune there and shit like that. And Uranus deals with, you know what I'm saying, being unique, different, original, or like radical, rebellious type of energy and shit like that. And, you know what I'm saying, like radical change and shit like that. And then Neptune deals with dreams, illusions, and imagination and the whole intuitive outlook. But, you know what I'm saying, sometimes I think it can be personally delusional when it comes to certain shit like that for the most part. So me having those two things there and then my first house Lord being in my fifth house just adds into everything I'm talking about for the most part. And then it's all, so like when it comes to my moon, that's an air house going to a firehouse. So my third house lord going to the fifth house. And then my sun, that's my fourth house lord, going into my fifth house. And that's a water house going to my fifth house. And then my first going to my fifth. And that's a fire house going to another fire house. But you notice I keep saying fifth house, right? And then I have a fifth house stellium. So it's all fire houses. And then, like I said earlier, the fire deals with like, hold on. The fire deals with like intuition and like foresight and like burning through reality and stuff like that and like conscious awareness. So turning around and externalizing it and shit like that based upon my own vision, my own outlook, and me like, you know what I'm saying, like burning the flame and shit like that. I'm lit, I'm hot, it's lit. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, like it's like that hot, spicy type of energy and shit like that. So from all those things going into a firehouse, that's why even though I'm triple earth and shit like that, and I'm all about being grounded and substantiated and shit like that, and all about my business, all about growth, nourishment, stability and shit like that, and like, you know what I'm saying, being real, or like being realistic and shit like that, or like caring about the material shit that's actually being, that's actually manifesting and materializing, so I can receive some type of benefit out of it and stuff like that. I'm all about the fire, motherfucker. Like I see the vision with this, I see the vision with that, I see the vision with this. You know what I'm saying? Like I'll see through the reality of the whole outlook of the whole thing, and for me doing that, that's why I'll have a lot of personal expression. That's why I have a lot of like creative type of energy and shit like that. That's why I'll naturally come off like I see like the broad knowledge of wisdom, or like, you know, expansive type of energy and shit like that. Or like I always come off in like that childlike energy, not childish, but childlike energy. I come off in a very like spring chicken, like youthful type of energy and shit like that, right? And for the most part, I see the overall vision and shit like that. I'm like, this overall creativity or imagination, how can I look at this in a broad way and this benefit everybody? And I see through, like I was saying earlier, I see through the physical circumstance. I see past the words you're saying and shit like that, and how you articulate it and shit like that. I'll see past whatever emotion and feeling you're trying to throw on me and shit like that. All I'm saying is how I see and feel about it for the most part. And yeah, it's like that fiery type of energy. And shit. It's like, I go based off the first spark in like the visionary type of shit. Or like the like me trying to give birth and life into shit. Like me trying to like I'm trying to put you back in that inspirational vitality and shit like that. Like yeah, motherfucker, like this is a natural transition. Like this matters way more. AKA you can look at that like your mind and your mental health, that need to be clear and shit like that before you start doing like whatever you physically doing and shit like that. And all that gonna do is clear up your spirit and shit like that, and go back to that natural ability based upon your creative gifts and imagination and shit like that. But yeah, all that fire energy and shit like that, and then that Aries being there, that Taurus being there, and then that Cat rising and shit like that. Yeah, so that basically is like, you know, sum me up for the most part. Tight shit.